up, Raider Nation? It is JT with another episode of the Raidercast preseason show, episode 5 now. The Raiders are 3-0, beat the Dolphins in Miami. It was a okay game. I didn't get to watch it live too much. I was at a family gathering. That's why I didn't live stream it yesterday. I plan on live streaming the Patriots game this Friday, as long as I'm not doing anything that day. We'll see. But I hope you guys like the new setup style thing I have going on. So instead of having my camera on my laptop, which is over here, or on my my second screen, which is over here, I have it just right here. Hope you guys like it. I wanted to try something different. I have a different way of the stream setup too. I kind of like how it's just the screen. It's not anything extra behind it. This will probably be where I'd be for game days as well. But yeah, I got some stuff behind me. But anyway, let's get into what I want to talk about today anyway, which was the game. Players, yo, what's up, Eddie? How's it going? How's it hanging, bro? What was I saying? I got off track for a second. Oh, the game, yeah. Raiders win 15-13 on a last-second missed field goal from Miami. It was a okay game, like I said. The defense looked stout. The offense looked okay. The offensive line really dragged down the defense. Offense, which is what we expected to happen, unfortunately. But anyway, let me get into what I actually have for my game balls and my weak links. I'm going to start off positive. So we're going to go game balls. Game balls, we have Deshaun Bauer, who had 1.5 sack, some pressures. He had a couple of stops, some hurries. He was just all over the place. He was insane. There was one play that I remember. He came off he shoved the blocker and just went for the TFL. It was awesome. He's definitely earned his roster spot. There was a lot of players left at Vegas and for this game, and he is definitely one of those players that could have been left there. I think he solidified his roster spot. Obviously, they need defensive ends to play, so him and Kuntz and the backups will obviously play, but he's definitely earned his roster spot after this game. The second guy I have on this list is Jesper Horsted, who I've talked about this whole offseason as someone who I think could be our tight end 3, or at least a tight end 4 at the very minimum. We saw his playmaking ability at 3 catches for 50 yards and 17 per catch. He looked phenomenal. 2 contested catches that he just went up and grabbed and brought down. He was a wide receiver at Princeton, so he has wide receiver capabilities, but he's also a really decent blocker, which is super important, obviously, for a tight end. You want that duality. Obviously, he's more useful in the receiving game. So as a tight end 3 behind Moreau, as a pass catcher is actually kind of a good way for him to go. Hollister hasn't played. He's been injured. Bowers has been more of one of those blocking tight ends, hasn't really shown anything in the pass game. I think Horsted is the best of both worlds, and so I think he should definitely be earning a roster spot, especially after this game. He got those 3 catches for 3 targets, so he has good hands. And then the third guy who's been on this list already is Britton Brown. He looked really good. Of course, he had 7.8 yards per carry. I mean, what else do you really need to say about him? He just looked really good again. It's between him at this point and Kenyon Drake, and that's really it for the running back room. We also have Austin Walter, but ever since he was signed, I only saw him as a camp body, so I don't really think that's going to be happening. But I think it's definitely between Kenyon Drake and Britton Brown at this point. Obviously, Kenyon Drake is hard to get rid of just because of his contract and dead cap and all that. But Britton Brown definitely showed up, and he's going to definitely be hard to grab off waivers again if you do cut him. So you have to be careful about that. But we'll see how that turns out. Anyway, let's move on to the negatives. Let's move on to the weak links of this game. Those weak links are Lester Cotton, who I'm kind of disappointed to say did not have a very good game. He looked bad against the rush. He didn't look great in the run game. Taking a look at his PFF grade, it was one of the lowest. It was bottom, the worst PFF grade for the offense this game. He had a 43.5. He looked just not good, which was very sad to see for me anyway. because I want him to be the right guard. And in the Hall of Fame game, I know he looked pretty decent. So it's definitely been a downtrend from playing the Jaguars, going on to Minnesota, and then Miami, who both have good defensive fronts, but that's no excuse. If we want him to be a starter right guard, he needs to be putting up or shut up. So that's definitely another question mark that's coming back. I guess it's not, maybe, it's just growing pains and he'll get better as the season goes on. But if we want to do a start strong type of thing, we're not going to be starting strong on the right side of the ball, especially since the second guy on the list is supposed to be our starting right tackle, is Alex Leatherwood. He got benched halfway through the game, obviously got put back in, but he got benched. He gave up like a sack, he gave up a ton of pressures, he got beat all the time on the right side. He just hasn't looked good at all this entire offseason, really, and last season. He looked much better at guard, so we can see if he's going to be a guard at any point. Maybe move him back where Lester Cotton is now. Yo, what's up, PreSZN? How you doing? But yeah, Lester Cotton. Yeah, I was very disappointed. Obviously, he's one of my players to watch at the start of camp, so there's all that too. That was kind of disappointing for me because I thought he was going to be much better than he is right now. But as the live game reps get more and more, he's starting to look worse and worse. So that's definitely a concern for the Raiders right now. And then the third weak link, I have Chris Jones. He's just kind of been like, after the Hall of Fame game where he had 2 targets and 0 receptions allowed, he just hasn't looked good. Looking at the PFF grades, I know PFF is not the end all be all, but it is a great starting point to talk about how he just hasn't been playing good. 28 overall on defense. He had a 28.2 in coverage. His run defense and tackling is good, but if you want a lower end corner, you don't want to have him be liable in coverage. You don't need him to. The safeties is where you're going to be like, okay, he can tackle and he's okay against the run, so that's fine if he's a safety, because safeties aren't usually doing one-on-one coverage a lot. He's doing one-on-one coverage a lot, or he's doing zone coverage, and he hasn't been good at either of those really ever since the first game. So he's definitely someone that's, as I'll get to later, definitely on the chopping block. He just hasn't played up to what I thought he was playing at the Hall of Fame game. Taking a look away from this negative stuff, I wanted to look at my players I watched, or I was trying to focus on in the little time I had to watch the game. And that was Thayer Munford, who I completely forgot got banged up in practice. So he wasn't even there. He was still in Vegas. So didn't see anything from Munford because he wasn't there. So that was my first dumb mistake, was that I chose to have look at Munford. Yeah. But moving on from him, Sam Webb, he was a stud. He should have had a forced fumble recovery for a touchdown easily. It was a very, very good play. It looked like a hit stick out there. Obviously, he gave up some plays. If you watch the game, he gave up some catches, but he had overall a very solid PFF grade. He was very solid in coverage. His run defense isn't the best, but again, like I said, for Chris Jones, you would rather have your CB be good in coverage and not so much against the run than vice versa. So it's good to see that he's above average in coverage, and he's still an undrafted free agent rookie, so he has a lot of time to develop. We're not exactly looking for him to make it as our CB1, so that is okay for him to have those hiccups. Webb makes it over Amik. That honestly, that could definitely happen around PreSZN. I'm not gonna lie. Amik is definitely someone who's looking at his job through far away, because Sam Webb and Ike Brown stepped up this game, and Amik just looked pedestrian. Yeah, I don't know about Amik right now. And this front office is clearly willing to get rid of players that from the old regime that haven't been working out, such as Tyree Gillespie, and stuff like that. So Amik could be on the chopping block next too. You never know. Next up, I have Luke Masterson, who I've been talking about the past few weeks, ever since the Hall of Fame game. I thought he's looked absolutely fantastic. McDaniels revealed that he's been wearing the green dot on the defense now. During the obviously during the preseason games, in the regular games he wouldn't, unless he's put in an impairment hurt or something like that. But he's kind of commanding the offense. He's the quarterback of the, sorry, not the offense, the defense. And he's looked pretty damn good doing it. You know, he's had obviously some hiccups. He's an undrafted free agent rookie. So again, same thing as Sam Webb. You're going to have those hiccups as a rookie, especially undrafted. So I'm not too upset about him having some hiccups, but he's looked solid in tackling. He looked good in coverage. Overall, he had a bad PFF grade, but I guess linebackers don't really test well in PFF. But the eye test, if you watch him, he's always there. He's always at least attempting to make the tackle. He's always trying to get there. Whether or not he makes a tackle, sometimes it doesn't happen. But again, he's showing effort. He's showing that he can command the defense. And as a middle linebacker, that's your job, is you're kind of the quarterback of the defense a lot of the time. So this is awesome, like that he's being so mature already in that, you know, in that role on the defense. So definitely could see him and Darian Butler, who I'm going to talk about much later, not much later, but I will talk about much more later on, as being very solid 53-man roster linebackers. Moving on, I have Britton Brown, who is another player I wanted to watch, and of course he did not disappoint. 7.8 yards per carry, that's all that needs to be said. He would look like a beast. He has the past 2 games, because he didn't play the first game, but against Minnesota and against Miami, he's looked really, really good. So moving on, DJ Turner didn't have an insane game like he did against Minnesota, but he looked good in the returns. He had, my goodness, pardon me, my breathing. DJ Turner, he had that jet sweep that he looked pretty decent in. He had I think over 50 yards all purpose. He had a 16-yard catch. I mean, he just looked pretty good. He's definitely a dark horse to make the roster. If we carry 6 receivers, it'll be very hard to keep him on waivers if we cut him. So that's something the coaching staff's definitely going to have to think about. So he's definitely someone that you could see make the roster, or if he gets a cut, you got to hope and pray that he makes it back to the practice squad. But if we do end up carrying 6 wide receiver, it's very possible that he is the 6th wide receiver, because after him, there's really no one there. There's, I think, Chris Lacey maybe, and Isaiah Zuber and Justin Hall, who all have not played a lot, and when they did play, they haven't done anything. So DJ Turner definitely a dark horse to make the 53. The last player I wanted to watch later on today, as I did watch the game later on today, or earlier today, I should say. Played solid. He could definitely be a practice squad guy. He had a above average PFF grade. I think it was like a 50 or something like that, above a 50. He definitely looks like the PFF grade obviously doesn't tell the whole story, and if you watch him, he definitely has the ability to rush the passer pretty well. He's going to be a very good odd man defensive end, so he's definitely going to be that big guy in the middle, who looks like a defensive tackle if this was like a 4-3 talking about. But as a 3-4 defensive end, he looks very solid. He could definitely develop into something special. I mean, not special, but something very solid down the line. Even later on this year, who knows? He's definitely impressed me more over Zach Von Valkenburg, as much as I love Von Valkenburg's name, and it's a really dope name. Tagovailoa Amosa is definitely above him, in my opinion, in terms of how he's played and his ability on the field. So I don't know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think of these players here. This is so hard to do. These players here. I don't know if anyone else stood out to you in this game. Let me know, obviously, in the comments, live or later on. But I think these are the players that really ended up standing out, obviously, except for Thayer Munford. But there was a lot of other players that we'll talk about later that also stood out. So we're going to move on to the observations overall that I had throughout the game. We're going to start off with the offense. Okay. Maybe not. Oh. Oops. I put up the wrong graphics. So, 1 second. A little hiccup. A little technical difficulty at the moment. Here we go. There we go. I fixed it. All right. Yeah, T-Billy. Definitely. Actually, I'm going to talk about him soon. Actually, in my observations. So, Stidham. Actually, let me talk about T-Billy first, since you brought him up, Eddie. T. Billy, Keelan Cole, and DJ Turner all looked good. T. Billy, Keelan Cole, definitely, in my opinion, definitely making the roster. I don't see them not making the roster. Because Keelan Cole just looked like a solid veteran presence. T. Billy looked speedy. If there was better blocking, or if he was able to find a hole, he would be gone. Like, he's just fast, which is awesome. Keelan Cole, solid vet presence, should be a very steady receiver. I think someone said that like Devontae Adams has an average of 2 missed games per season. So if he ends up missing a game or two, which knock on wood, he doesn't. But stuff happens. So if he does, I'm not that worried if Keelan Cole has to be our wide receiver 1, especially if we have Waller and Renfrow there still. And our run game is going to be really good. So with all those, if we have to rely on Keelan Cole to be a number 1, or at least a number 2 behind Renfrow and Waller, or number 3, I guess, behind Renfrow and Waller, it's fine. He showed that he's a reliable veteran wide receiver. T. Billy has shown that he's a playmaker. Get the ball in his hands, and he's very shifty, very hard to tackle. He's very fast. So he's definitely going to have a role in the offense, especially if he gets his hands better. Because obviously in the Hall of Fame game, we saw him drop 2 big balls, especially one that was definitely going to be a touchdown. But if he gets those hands, and he's just a threat anyway. Even without the hands, even if the defense is like, he's not a great hands, doesn't matter. If he beats you downfield, you don't want to take that chance that he catches that ball. So he's definitely gonna be a threat as a deep threat. DJ Turner looks a very versatile guy. Looks like you can definitely use him in the run game. He looks like he's a very willing blocker, which is very important in McDaniel's offense. He's good on special teams. Same thing with T. Billy and Matt Collins. That's why Matt Collins was back in Vegas, because Matt Collins has his roster spot, which I'm going to talk about later. But definitely DJ Turner, like I said earlier, could definitely be the 6th wide receiver if we carry 6. But I want to talk about the quarterbacks now. Stidham looked much better than he did in Minnesota. He looked way a lot better. Just taking a look at his stats, 7 for 10 for 80 yards. Obviously no touchdowns, no quarterback got a touchdown. Only Zamir White scored a touchdown. It was the defense actually scored 2 points, which I'll talk about later. But Stidham looked very solid. He looked very efficient. I think Garbers looked very good. He had a lot of rushing yards. He had 44 rushing yards on 4 attempts. I mean, Garbers definitely has some legs. I don't know if he makes it over Mullins just because Mullins is much of a vet. I like Garbers a lot, but I'm not going to hold my breath that he's going to stay on the roster over Mullins. It's just not going to happen. Or Stidham. It's going to be Stidham, Mullins as the backup to Carr right now. Unless we carry 2 or 3 on the roster and hope that Garbers comes back to the practice squad. But I highly doubt we carry 3 quarterbacks on the main roster. They didn't. They only carried 1 last year in New England. So they had 2 or 3 on the practice squad, so we could see something like that too this year, because that's a complete opposite of what Gruden had. We had 3 quarterbacks at all times. We had Carr, Mariota, and Peter Goat. How could I forget Peter Goat? But yeah, I think I liked Garbers more than Mullins in this game, but I don't think the order has changed at all. I think it's definitely Carr, Stidham, Mullins, Garbers. But moving on to the other backs of the offense, we have Kenyon Drake versus Britton Brown for the last running back room spot, which I kind of talked about earlier in the stream or video or whatever, however you're watching. But definitely they're fighting for that last spot. Drake does not have a guaranteed roster spot right now. The 3 players in that running back room that stayed behind were Josh Jacobs, Amir Abdullah, and Brandon Bolden. Those are the 3 guaranteed running backs. And on top of that, even though Zeus was at Miami, he's not going anywhere. He's not getting cut. There's a reason why he was drafted somewhat high. But I think it was like a 4th round pick, so it's not high, but it was high for the picks that we did have. So he's definitely making the roster. So at this point, it's really between Kenyon Drake and Britton Brown. And I think Britton Brown's winning right now, but again, it's hard with Drake's contract to cut him or get rid of him. And plus, he has that veteran presence, he has that ability. But in all honesty, Amir Abdullah right now looks like he's doing Kenyon Drake's job better than Kenyon Drake is. I definitely have more confidence that Amir Abdullah will be more reliable than Kenyon Drake, especially in the run game. Let's take a look at what reference stands saying. Jacobs, Bolden, White, Abdullah making the roster. Brown practice squad if we get lucky. Trade Drake. Yeah, the thing is, though, if you cut Brown, there's no way he's making it past waivers. Someone's going to scoop him up for their practice squad. So you have to think about that, too. That's like the hardest thing to think about when you're doing the roster cuts, is that you're not guaranteed to hang on to some players. Unless you have like a future contract with them. But even then, that like cutting that future contract, I don't even know how I'm not a super big expert on this stuff, but all I know is that it's very hard to keep players on the roster once you cut them, especially if you want to keep them. Trade Drake is definitely a possibility, but again, no one wants to take on that contract. Not even the Raiders don't even want to keep his contract. So he might just make the roster just because his contract is awful. So that's another Gruden issue that we had, was Kenyon Drake's contract. Oh my God, add it to the list. But that's pretty. Oh, how could I forget about the O-line and tight ends? So I'm gonna start with the tight ends first. Jesper Horsted is my guy. I've been talking about him all off season. He's definitely the tight end 3 right now, in my opinion. I like him better right now than Hollister because Hollister's injured. So that's obvious. I like him better than Bowers because he has like I talked about earlier, he has that pass catching ability. So Horsted, I think, is going to be tight end 3. He had a lot of plays. So yeah, I think it's just going to be Jesper Horsted, tight end 3. Then you have, that's really it for tight ends. And then the O-line. The O-line is a carousel still. Except for the left side with Miller and Simpson, I think those are pretty much guaranteed, and Andre James even. But that right side is just like, what the fuck is going on, man? It's just a mess. Cotton does not look good. It doesn't look as good as everyone thought he looked in the first 2 games. Like even the second game, he was starting to show signs of So people are like, maybe Parham should be the right guard, and I'm like, I don't know how much confidence I have in Parham. I'm not saying he's bad, but I don't know. But Illuminor looks like what people want in their right tackle right now is Jermaine Illuminor. But who the hell knows what's going on that right side right now. We might see Leatherwood take some snaps at right guard. I don't know what's going to happen with him. It's just rough right now. It's just not. We have like 2 players that are, well, 1 player in Cotton that's just not playing up to what we thought he could. You have a player in Leatherwood who's continuing to play how he played last year, which was dog shit. And you have a Luminor who's just a decent right tackle. And honestly, at the right tackle position, you don't need an all-pro for your O-line to be successful. You just need a decent starter, and Illuminor will give us that. So I think that Jermaine going forward should be our option at right tackle. Thayer Munford with his injury might just be stashed like on the pup list or something like that, or on some sort of list, and just let him get better and better, and just let him develop into the stud right tackle that he could be, because I definitely think Munford will be the future, just because of his potential and stuff like that, and that he's already shown flashes of being that guy. But in terms of right guard, yeah, Jack Driscoll. Who is Jack Driscoll? I'm not gonna lie, I've seen people talk about him, but I don't really know much about him. Let's see. Is he a left tackle? Let's check him out on PFF. Let's check him out. All right. Yeah, he's a tackle. All right. 70 PFF grade. Shit. Why not? 1 sack allowed, 1 penalty. A worse 2020, but still way better than anyone else we have on the right side. Yeah, he'll be a tough get to get. Because I don't know what the Eagles would be looking for, what we could even trade at this point. if we could trade Leatherwood for Driscoll straight up, or Leatherwood and Furl for Driscoll, and get rid of those ugly first-round picks and get a right tackle. But for right now, either it seems like the idea is he's their backup right tackle, Dillard plays left. Oh, I mean, if he's a backup right tackle, he probably wouldn't take a lot to trade for. But then again, they know we're desperate, and they could definitely just keep him there until someone trades a lot for them. And I know that McDaniels and Ziegler don't want to be those guys that just pay a lot just to get him now. So what I think may happen is we either roll with what we have in Illuminor, because I definitely think he's going to be the starter for right now, especially with how Leatherwood's playing. I don't want fucking Brandon Parker. And not going to be Leatherwood. So for right now, it's either going to be Leatherwood, or apparently, according to Vic Taffer, so I don't know how trustworthy this is, because Taffer makes mistakes quite a few times. But apparently, they're looking to see who's released. And that the answer at right tackle is someone who they think will be released from another team. Now, why would we want damaged goods from another team that they just cut? Maybe it's a veteran that's a backup that they don't need anymore because a rookie or a second-year player is playing up and they have to cut him. I don't know. Honestly, I think we should pick up Darrell Williams, but maybe he's asking too much. There's a lot of, you know what, at this point, Ziegler and McDaniels has made pretty solid moves so far, in my opinion, so I'm kind of trusting him. Ryan Kaelstrom, Jermaine at right tackle, Alex at guard. I was kind of alluding to that previously. Definitely think it's a possibility because, honestly, Alex Otherwood is a much better right guard, and that's kind of where he excelled in college. I don't know why we drafted him to be right tackle. I don't know what the hell Tom Cable was cooking, or Gruden, or Mayock, or whoever the fuck drafted him. He was a much successful. The reason why he was so successful is because he was a right guard. He wasn't a tackle. He was a guard. He has shorter arms. He's built to be much more of a guard. Honestly, Alex Leatherwood is a beast in the run game. Like, he's dominant in the run game. I can't knock him for that. He's really, really good in the run game. But as a right guard, you definitely want that. You definitely want that guy that can be a beast at right guard. And plus, when you're on the inside between a right tackle and a center, you have that extra help. You're not just alone on an island with whoever you're attacking. Obviously, you can double team with the right guard, but you have more help when you're a right guard. So, and you're not facing as fast guys. That's another issue, is he can't keep up with the speed of the edge defenders. Obviously, defensive tackles can be fast, and if it's a really good defensive tackle, it can. But on average, defensive tackles are not super fast, and he's not super fast at right tackle or as a offensive lineman in general. So the speed of the game is he's much more suited for the inside position at right guard than on the outside. So whoever in the Las Vegas front office last year was like, yes, let's get the guy who's a right guard and really good at right guard, make him a right tackle. Like, he's gonna fail. They set him up to fail, and it kind of sucks because he seems like a nice guy, but he's just not excelling in what we drafted him for, which is unfortunate because he didn't ask to be drafted like that. And I know that's not an excuse, but you know what I'm trying to say. He's definitely going to excel as a right guard, I would think, or at least be better, at least be serviceable as a right guard, maybe better than Cotton right now. So we'll see how that goes. Could definitely see, but he hasn't taken any snaps as right guard in camp anywhere. So they haven't even thought about him as a guard. So maybe we'll see that change this week. Who knows? But moving on, I want to talk about the defense now, because I think the defense is obviously important to talk about because the defense looks fucking phenomenal. The Patrick Graham scheme, I'm so excited for to see, with Max Crosby and Chandler Jones rushing the end. You have Jonathan Hankins and Bilal Nichols up the middle. You have Denzel Perryman stuffing and just destroying runners. You have Divine Diablo doing the same thing. You have Jayon Brown just intercepting people or locking down wide receivers. You have the outside corners of Rocky Sin and Trayvon Mullen just shutting down everyone. You have Jonathan Abrams smacking the shit out of people up the middle. You have and blitzing the quarterback, and you have Trayvon Murray and blah. Wait. Okay. I don't know if this is a troll because you didn't capitalize the keep and this is not something Max would do. But I highly doubt this. However, I appreciate the troll, if this is a troll. But if it is Max, holy shit, welcome. But I'm cautious because I have a lot of friends on Twitter that would do this, so I'm not gonna freak out. But if this is real, holy shit. If it's not, that was a good troll. What's keeping me from thinking it is actually Max Crosby is you didn't capitalize the T in thank you, and you didn't capitalize the K in keep. So, and there it is, ratio. Let's go. I didn't do it. I didn't fall for the troll. But yes, Ryan Kellstrom, definitely feel a lot better about the defense. Absolutely. I felt good about the defense going into this season. I think that it's going to be phenomenal. We're going to have like the best defense we've had in like 20 years. I think that even looking at, you have the depth of, oh, I'm out of focus. Hello, camera, wake up. There we go. You have the depth of our defense looking like starters. Not really, but you know what I mean. They look like really solid depth pieces. You have Hankins still being a monster. He played this game because he just needs some live game reps, and he still looks like that space eating monster. I don't know what the fuck I was smoking when I was making my 53-man roster video, but I didn't have him on the 53 because I'm a fucking idiot and thought his injury was way worse than it was, and him being on the bottom while Bilal was on the top meant something. Obviously didn't because he's still a beast. So I'm telling you that I'm an idiot already for thinking that Hankins is not a starting defensive tackle. But Bilal Nichols and Jonathan Hankins should be a damn good starting defensive tackle. Maybe not damn good, but maybe like just solid. Backup defensive tackles, anything beyond them is like, but for right now, I'm okay. I've been shitting on the defensive tackles for a while now, so I'm not going to anymore because I'm definitely a lot more confident with Bilal Nichols and Jonathan Hankins back, and then hearing about Bilal Nichols being a dominant force in camp and Hankins looking like an absolute beast in the field. So, yes, Big Hank for sure. He's a beast. But feel a lot better about our D-line in general. It's not, our middle is still going to be a struggle. However, it's not going to be the decrepit line that I thought it was going to be, or at least the decrepit interior line I thought it was going to be. But moving on from them, you have the linebackers, Masterson and Maelstrom. Not Masterson, Maelstrom. What am I talking about? Masterson and Butler, who looked really good. Obviously, PFF grade, not end all be all, so they didn't have a good PFF grade. But if you use your eye test, they looked really good. Darren Butler had a nice TFL. They both looked good in coverage. Obviously, I talked about Luke Masterson earlier being the quarterback of the defense this preseason, and he's done a damn good job of it. They looked cohesive. There's a lot of penalties. Just a lot of good stuff seeing from the defense right now. It's definitely awesome. We are going to go 7-10. Damn. Max Crosby has... Guess who you think this is? I could easily see him be Luna. Luna or Eli. Oh, no. It's probably Brian Edwards Burner for sure. I think it's Brian Edwards Burner, or Raiders mostly, or Ash, or I don't know which one I go by. Luna or Coastline. Coastline doesn't show like that though. But I'm guessing Luna or big time Brian Edwards Burner. Definitely could be Woo though. Woo is definitely an option. But is it Coastline? Damn, Coastline, you got me. That was a good one, bro. The lowercase T and the lowercase K definitely gave it away for me. So if you had to capitalize those, I may have been like, whoa. But I know Max Crosby doesn't really know about my YouTube, I don't think. But that was a good troll. I'm not gonna lie, that was a good troll. That was a good one. Almost got me. I was like, whoa, wait a minute, who is this? Yeah, I think the defense just looks great. Ike Brown, man, Ike Brown. I'm gonna call him out, shout him out right now. Ike Brown. Oh yes, sir. Yes, big dog. But Ike Brown definitely looked good. Highest PFF grade out of anyone on the defense, almost out of anyone on the team. He was beat out by Jesper Horsted by 0.2 points. So, But Ike Brown looked like a lockdown corner that I was looking for from him from the USFL. He was an absolute beast in USFL. He had like 2 pick sixes. He had allowed 0 receptions, or 1 reception, allowed 0 touchdowns. He was a beast all season, and a big reason why their defense was so dominant at times. But he definitely showed up, and it definitely saved him, in my opinion, because after the last couple weeks, he was been kind of quiet, hasn't really shown out. However, after this week, he looked so good. Definitely happy for him. I'm a big fan of him, so that's awesome. You have Sam Webb, who had that. It was a fucking fumble. I just want to say that it was a fumble. I don't know how they said, oh no, it didn't. The receiver didn't make the moves or whatever. That was a fumble. That was a fumble all day, every day. That would have been a fumble recovery for a touchdown for sure. But whatever. It didn't get counted. I'm going to count it in my book. Obviously, it doesn't matter. But Sam Webb looked really good. As I talked about earlier, he gave up some catches. That's going to happen. But in coverage in general, he looked really solid. He has that ability, that playmaking ability to get the football out. Definitely excited for him. The past few weeks, he's looked really good. So he could definitely make the practice squad easily, if not the 53, along with Ike Brown. Yeah, exactly. That was my issue, is that I forgot about him. And as a player, you don't want to be forgotten about when it comes to roster cuts. So definitely the fact that he showed up in a big way yesterday was huge for his, huge for him to stay on the team, which I think he will, at least for another week. We'll see what happens after next week, but for right now, he's definitely locked up a roster spot. Then you have Curtis Bolton, the longtime Raider fan, lifelong Raider fan, getting a safety, which they ruled it wasn't a safety at first, but then it was like what was it called? Trying to get yardage or whatever. I forget what the penalty's called, but he tried doing that, so he got the safety. That was an awesome play. Again, another player that I was rooting for, because I want the guy who's grown up a Raiders fan to get to play for the Raiders. That's an awesome storyline, but he didn't show up really in the other couple games, so I was nervous for him. But he really showed up in this game. He had one of the higher PFF grades. He looked good as a linebacker. I don't know if it's going to really mean he gets a roster spot. However, I think if he gets cut, I think it should be very easy for him to make his way back onto our practice squad, because he's not exactly been putting up highlight reel level plays. That's what it is, intentional grounding. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you. I was blanking. I was like, yeah, whatever. But thank you, Ryan, for the intentional grounding. But a very good play. Looks like a solid player as well. But Jordan Jenkins already got hurt. I'm not really sure what his status is on that. So hopefully he's healthy, because he's another player that we need for a backup defensive end. And again, I talked about Deshaun Bauer earlier, but Deshaun Bauer has a sack in every single preseason game so far. He looked like a beast last night. This defense is I could talk on and on for days and days and days about them, because they just look so damn good. Anyway, I'm gonna talk about the special teams, kind of. Here's what I'm gonna say about the special teams. They were good. They weren't bad. They made their kicks. They made their punts. They made their tackles. There was nothing that stood out to me. There was no crazy play like in the Minnesota game with that giant Cole punt and the Matt Collins tackle. That was it. They were good. They don't look like a liability like people are saying they will be. I mean, we'll see when real games happen, but for now, they're fine. Anyway, not really much to say about them. Moving on, I'm going to talk about, obviously, I think a month ago now, I made my video titled Players to Watch in Camp. And a lot of those players, I'm going to list, I think I have them listed right here, yes. So my O-line to watch was Lester Cotton. Obviously, his stocks has gone down a lot, so that's kind of disappointing to see. But he's still going to make the roster, in my opinion. I don't think he's not going to make the roster. So that's definitely a good thing for him. But his play needs to improve to make it a guaranteed spot, a starter spot especially. And then Matt Collins, he stayed home in Vegas for the Miami game, so all that tells me he's guaranteed a roster spot. So that was definitely a good eye for me. People weren't talking a lot about Matt Collins as an addition, but as soon as we got him, I'm like, I think he's like, I didn't tweet it out. I don't know if I tweeted it out or anything like that, but in my head, I swear, I was like, yo, not a bad signing. He could definitely make the roster. He's a big guy. He had 4 touchdowns to Miami last year, so you never know. And then you have Zamir White, who I have like a little arrow, which basically means he didn't go up, he didn't go down. He's made the roster. He hasn't played fantastic, but I like, he doesn't need to make the roster. Like, he had a great Hall of Fame game, so that's what I'm basing off him right now. He doesn't look great in these past couple games, but he doesn't need to. He's not fighting for a roster spot. He doesn't need to get himself injured, but I'm definitely excited to see what he does in a real game. Then you have Matthew Butler. His stocks have just gone down and down and down. Not saying he's not going to make the roster. Be very surprised if he doesn't, honestly. But he doesn't look great right now. He's just, him and Neil Farrell are just not playing with what I thought they were going to play with. So that's kind of disappointing to see. But maybe, you know, obviously it takes time to develop. So he's not a monster off the bat. That's okay. You know, you got to develop. So, you know, hopefully he develops into something nice for us. And then you have Darian Butler, who I've talked about all offseason and talked about this whole episode. Darian Butler has been a beast this whole preseason. He's looked really, really good. I think he was the first pick in camp this season. So that was, you know, he's looked really, really good in games and camp. So the first Hall of Fame game, he looked shaky on tackles. But after that, he's much improved. So he's looked really good. And then Tyree Gillespie, I put skull and crossbones because he's no longer on the team. So that's kind of sad. I'm kind of sad he's gone. I was very high on him. So that was obviously a bad choice for a player to watch. But it wasn't like a bad choice at the time because a lot of people were high on him. There was definitely a lot of Gillespie agenda going around. So I'm not mad about choosing him because he's definitely had the ability to show out, but he just got traded. So that's that on that. Moving on, I'm going to move on to cut predictions. So whoever's here, whoever's in the chat and down in the comments in the video, well, obviously if you're live, don't pause it, but if you're in a video, if you're watching the VOD, pause here, tell me in the comments who you think are going to get cut. I definitely want to hear who you guys think are going to get cut, at least like 1 player, 2 players. I listed 5. We're at 84 right now in terms of our roster, so we only have to technically cut 4 by Tuesday, 4 p.m. I think it is. So 4 p.m. Eastern, I think. So here are my predictions. Who is going to get cut? I have Chris Jones, Q Cole, Quintario Cole. He didn't even play in this last game, so I don't know if that means he's guaranteed a roster spot or he's injured or what. But he doesn't have any record of anything on PFF. He doesn't have a grade. He didn't get a snap. So that shows me he's probably cut. You have obviously Chris Jones I talked about earlier. He did not look good at all. You have Isaiah Zuber. Cole Fotheringham first. We're kind of set at tight end in my opinion. It's either going to be Horsett or Hollister or both making the roster or even Bowers. He's just kind of an extra. I don't know if they'll cut him yet. So that's another thing I kind of wanted to maybe discuss, but I'll finish off. Isaiah Zuber, and then we have Chris Lacey, who are just wide receivers that are just not getting any time right now. But another thing I want to talk about is that with these smaller cuts, I'm not sure if they're going to be cutting like younger or undrafted players right now, because they seem to be cutting players that are already been in the league, and they're cutting now so they have a chance to get back somewhere else. Because like last time we had DeMarcus Robinson, Vernon Butler, Nathan Brooks, who is a veteran player. He just hasn't been playing very well. And then who else? I don't even know who else was cut. I don't remember. Oh, Jerry Green and the 5th guy. I don't remember. But I think we only had like 1 undrafted guy get cut. So that just shows me that they're not cutting the undrafted free agent players right now or anyone else right now. But it's so hard for me to choose a non-undrafted free agent player who's also a veteran but also not playing that great to get cut. So yeah, that's exactly what it is, Ryan. They're doing veterans solid and trying to get them, able to get them back on other practice squads or on rosters somewhere else. Which is obviously nice of them. So it's very hard to guess right now what the cut predictions are, because it's like I don't know what they're doing. But I mean, these players haven't been playing super well, haven't been playing a lot or at all. So I think they're very easy cuts to make, but I don't know if they're just waiting to see what they can possibly get out of this last game. But after this next game against the Patriots on Friday, we're going down to 53. The final 53 is right around the corner. It's like just over a week away. So that's also super exciting to see who the final roster is going to be, who our practice squad will eventually be after waivers happen. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. Maybe we'll see where Ndamukong Suh finally goes. Maybe he didn't sign yet because he didn't want to play in a preseason game. And then once those cuts happen, after this game Friday, we have no Raider football until September 11th in like 2 weeks. That's crazy. Well, 3 weeks today, right? 1, 2. Wait, what? Hold on. How many weeks is until football starts? Oh. Let me check that. Yeah, 3 weeks from today. So 3 weeks from today, we finally see Raider football. That's super exciting. So, that's all I have for today's preseason show. I went over everything. Let me know in the comments down below any players that you thought played great, played bad, just your general observations. Leave a like, don't forget to comment, like I said just now, and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss an upload. I'll be posting on Tuesday. I should be posting other times this week, maybe another chill stream. We'll see what happens. And I should be streaming the game on Friday, so definitely keep an eye out if I do or not. But thank you to everybody who tuned in, everyone who's watching the video in the future. I greatly appreciate all the support. I'm on the road to 100 subs, so it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's definitely something I want to get to before the season starts. So I have 3 weeks. I'm at 73 or 74 right now. So any new subscriptions are greatly appreciated. I appreciate all the support and love in the past like 2.5 months now. And I will see you guys in the next stream video upload, whatever it is. Peace out, Raider Nation.